Okay.
Um, I'll enter, tonight is September 1st. It's Mind Training, the Wheel of Sharp Weapons with Karuna Cayton. And we're really glad that everybody's here. And thank you, Karuna, for showing up.
Thank you. I couldn't show up if everyone else didn't show up. So thank you for showing up. And I'm not sure if there's people who were not here last week, but just try and catch on as we go forward. Since this is sponsored by Land of Medicine Buddha, and it's not considered necessarily just sort of a general introductory class. This is more of an intermediate topic, although I like to make it relevant if I can, accessible to anybody. So that's the challenge when you try and teach these topics, is to make it relevant and make it accessible. So I'll try my best. It's also why I like to have some interaction, from people, because questions come up, and often the questions that come up for one person are sometimes helpful for somebody else. So what we do, or it's kind of a management thing, because in this kind of a class, there is a certain level of content that we try to present. So if we just have a back and forth, then sometimes it's hard to deliver all the content. So we'll do both, and Michael kind of help manage that. I think if you have a question, if it's easy, then just what do you want them to do, Michael? Put in the chat, or raise your hand, or something like that.
Yeah, chat if you, like I said, chat if you don't want to speak, or you can raise a virtual hand or your regular hand, and I'll keep an eye out for people when you have a question.
And thank you for everyone with your cameras on this. I appreciate that. I know sometimes it's more comfortable to have it off for some things you're doing, or that's okay too. Don't mind. I don't mind if you have it off, but there's a better, for me, because I'm very visual, there's sometimes a better interaction with people. It helps me, actually. It's a selfish thing. So it helps me when I see faces and people, human beings, or animals. Could be animals too. Okay, so as we begin the class, so there's typical prayers, recitations that are done before classes in terms of Buddhist content, Buddhist teachings, and I'm a little bit flexible in these things, because I want, the main thing is I want people to get the sense of feeling behind what is involved in these prayers. So always we start with what's referred to as the refuge prayer, and we can put that up, and I gave a short, really quick explanation last week, so that people who don't know about this prayer, we'll do it in English. And when it says refuge, it means sort of relying. So I rely until I'm enlightened, kind of like that. And the fundamental difference, the fundamental message being given in these prayers, is that we're changing our attitude from a ordinary attitude, which is what we take into life all the time, right? I mean, when I say it varies, because the whole idea of developing a spiritual path is transforming this ordinary mind into a superior mind. Okay, so the teachings that we're involved in now, as all Buddhist teachings, I would say, are designed to help us develop and train our mind into becoming a more superior mind than what's considered this ordinary mundane mind. And we'll talk. I want to talk about that a little bit after we do this prayer. So when it says to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, again, not to get hung up, because Buddha can sound like God, and that's not what it's meant. It's not a theistic Buddha. It's actually meant your own enlightened mind, right? Because that's why we're here. That's why we do this work, is because we all have the potential to develop our mind. So it's our mind to become this mind that you have right now, and I have right now, this mind, not some other mind you're going to acquire, like from outer space or from Buddha or from God. This is really, actually, it's quite inspiring to know that it's all in you. As Lam Yeshe used to say, it's your own equipment. So just remember that, because I think for many years I thought it was something else I'm going to achieve. like it's out there, like I'm going to go to heaven and then I'll be enlightened, something like that. I think sometimes we think about, maybe you've heard about going to the pure realms. And then, but actually, going to the pure realms, I'm not sure. Yeah, they describe it as a place, but I think it's a state of mind. So I think that for the very awakened beings, maybe on this planet, they're in the pure realms, even though they're walking and totally cognizant of who we are and what we are, but they don't see things as we see things. Okay. The environment is different for them, experienced different, I should say. The environment is experienced differently. People are experienced differently, animals, all kinds of things. The world is experienced differently. Okay, so that's the thing we're taking refuge in, our enlightened mind. And there's other beings who've attained this omniscient mind. So we're going to rely on them too. And that's the Buddha and also the Supreme Assembly are those beings who are on the path and generating that awakening mind and that Buddha mind. And the Dharma is just not to be mistaken. Of course, the teachings are typically referred to as the Dharma, like all the texts and all that kind of stuff. But the true Dharma, so there's inner Dharma, which is the true Dharma, which is our own mind. It transforms into the path. Okay. Right now, our mind is not transferring into the path. It is circling around and around in the same old stuff. That's what they call cyclic existence. Okay. So if you didn't know what cyclic existence was, you read it and you think, oh, the world, like, Russia and America and Europe, is cycling. It's not the meaning of samsara. It's not the meaning of cyclic existence. The meaning of cyclic existence is our own mind circling around to the same problems over and over again. We think we solve it and then we're back in it. Or it maybe looks different next time, but it's problem after problem after problem. That's cyclic existence. Okay, and since we have two vehicles in the Buddhist path, two vehicles being the fundamentalist vehicle and the great vehicle. So these are teachings associated with the great vehicle or the Mahayana, and what distinguishes the Mahayana vehicle from the Hinayana or Theravada vehicle is its intent. So in this case, our intent is that we ourselves become fully awakened beings or awakening beings for the benefit of others. Okay. And we're going to, of course, talk about that more. So that's what this refuge prayer is all about. Okay. So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening or teaching the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening or teaching the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, and then we don't need to do the mandala, Michael, but just then visually think that you are just going to empty yourself right now, preconceptions, assumptions, distractions, your busy day. And you think you're just going to offer all that you have visually, everything that you have, like your house, your car, your bank account. You put that all up as collateral. To be used as an offering in order to propel your own path to awakening quicker and quicker. Okay. Thank you. First of all, anything to clear up from last week that you'd like to ask me? Yes.
I would. Hi, I'm Maureen.
Hi, Maureen.
Well, I have a couple questions, but I'll put it into one. You had mentioned, you said, I wrote in my notes that we are never on the path until we begin to generate bodhicitta.
Correct.
Yet we never know where we are in bodhicitta. So how do we even know that we're doing it correctly or on the right path?
Good question. Well, first of all, we won't be doing it correctly, so that's okay.
Okay.
So, because, I mean, when I say we won't be doing it correctly, but we're also doing it correctly. If you know what I mean, for our level, whatever effort we make, it's always a question of calibrating, right? You go these extremes, and then slowly you become more and more balanced. When I said that you don't really enter the path until you generate bodhicitta, that is technically how it's described. As you know, just even that we're talking about this, so it's like you have a wish. I don't know if you generate it, not generate it, that's not my judgment, but the fact that we're talking about it is a very rare thing, and it shows that at least in the people here, the imprints are on our consciousness, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't even talk about it. So it starts with bodhicitta, since it's a very long, can be a very, very long journey. We talked about eons and eons, and it can be a very short, quick journey too. But your own awareness of your bodhicitta will become more and more evident.
Okay. Is that part of then when you were talking about the mental factors that cloud our judgment? So as we improve or enhance on the factors that make our mind unsettled, then that's the beginning of getting some more clarity or releasing some of the mental factors that affect us in a negative capacity.
Definitely. So, there's a couple things in your question here. So what you're describing now, the way I'm making sense of it, can also apply to the fundamentalist school, the Hinayana school. In other words, the path alone, regardless of bodhicitta, is a matter of the positive mental factors becoming more dominant. And it's a weird thing in our psychology. The weird thing is that because we have the negative mental factors like jealousy and anger and spite and all these things, right? It's a weird thing that they are more powerful than the positive ones. They're more powerful mainly because of habit. Okay. So when people habituate themselves to compassion and love and caring, equanimity, nonviolence, non-hatred, we know who those people are. It's like we gravitate to them, and they're committed to those mental states. So those people, they become stronger and stronger, actually, and that could be said, maybe all of us in this room are like that. But until you make a decision to follow that those are the right mental factors to develop, then we're just going to keep getting in trouble. This teaching on thought transformation is really pretty much a slap in the face, in that it's saying, okay, you really committed to this? You really want to increase your positive mental factors? Here's how you do it in a very powerful way, and it's very much in your face. This is not a nice teaching in many ways. It's not a nice teaching. And I also sometimes say that the reason not everyone's Buddhist, say, is because Buddhist is kind of difficult, because it is all about facing your stuff. And it doesn't mean you have to be hard on yourself, but things are going to come up and they're going to continue. So Lojong teaching, thought transformation teachings are saying, yeah, that's right. They're going to continue coming up. So instead of, trying to constantly soothe them through having a glass of wine, or soothe them by having a meditation, soothe them by doing yoga, soothe them by going for a run, soothe them by going for a walk in the woods. They're not criticizing that. It's just in this path, those aren't considered remedies. So this is concerned with remedy. That's why it's not for everybody. Everybody, we can't talk about, and some people can't, they say if you meet a beggar along the road, don't teach him philosophy, give him some food, right? So it's very arrogant to go around teaching people all these ideas. You can't, people are at different levels. So just clarifying, what's the word? Well, clearing away the negative minds is the Buddhist path. But then what makes it Mahayana is that you're doing that with the intent that you so much see the suffering not just yourself in this case, but all living beings. And that's why it's a personality thing, because some people just aren't made that way. They can become that way, but they're just not that way. Yeah, they might be kind. It's just not about kindness. Okay, it's really not about kindness. We have to remember that. Okay, it's not about kindness. People are kind anyway, I believe. His Holiness says the nature of human beings is kindness. So it's not about that. It's about intention. Why do you do what you do? Why do you go meditate in the morning? Why do you read the book on thought transfer, the wheel of sharp weapons, whatever? Why do you go and circumambulate a stupa? Why do you go to the temple? Why do you go pick your kids up from school? Right? It's all of it. That's the beauty. You have to remember that in the fundamentalist path, the Hinayana path, and I'm generalizing. Generally in the Hinayana path, going to pick up your kids at school is not considered necessarily part of the path unless you're using it to subdue your mind. But we can make that part of the path in the Mahayana tradition because everything is used to subdue your mind. Everything. Okay. And especially problems. Did I answer your question? Okay. Anything else that you can distract me with?
We have one question in the chat if you'd like to answer.
Yeah, could you read it?
Should be anytime. Just a few examples of self-cherishing.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Thank you. Thank you. So tonight I'm going to, I think I'll use the PowerPoint a little bit because that tends to be how I prepare things, but I don't want to leave the slides up there. I like this view more. So I'll put slides up and then I'll take them down if that's okay. Maybe I'll do it that way. Let's see how the flow goes. And Michael, can I share my screen?
You sure can.
Okay. Okay. So I don't think I'm going to review too much from last week. I think it'll segue into our discussion tonight. Yeah. So just hold me accountable for things that I skip over or I miss. You write them down and then we'll cover them. Okay. So in this context, bodhicitta, the awakening mind, is really the mind of compassion. Okay. Now, in the fundamentalist school, in the Hinayana tradition, they develop compassion too. So what's the difference here? The difference here is there is a particular mind of compassion that's more profound than the compassion that we generally talk about or is explained in the Theravada tradition. So the compassion in the Theravada tradition looks a lot like, well, what we talk about in Christian compassion or any other traditional compassion. And compassion is a mental factor. It's a natural mind that does arise. So unless we do something a little more intensive, that compassion will arise within us. It doesn't mean it becomes bodhicitta. What makes it bodhicitta is that compassion is pushed a little further in, you see, the definition of compassion is wishing others to be free of suffering. So in the Theravada tradition, Hinayana tradition, they see the suffering of other sentient beings, but the push to do something about it somehow doesn't happen. Okay, there's many philosophical reasons why, and it is very subtle. It's not, it's always explained to us that, Theravada, Hinayana, they just want their own liberation, and the Mahayanas want, liberation for all sentient beings. That is true, but it's much more subtle than that. The way it happens, it's a personality thing, really. So because of both the Theravada or the hearer tradition practices the same view of emptiness that the Mahayana do, it's when they see that when they experience emptiness of sentient beings, they do see that sentient beings are suffering, but they also see it as empty of any true existence. So it kind of is a little bit of a mental trick that allows them to then not come back to sentient beings. Because what they're seeing in terms of the suffering of sentient beings is illusory also, which it is. But something happens or is triggered from the Mahayana tradition that says, even though it's illusory, that all sentient beings suffering, and my own as well, is illusory, those beings still feel that they're suffering. Okay, even though they're tricked by it. So there's a sense of the heart going out to these beings. And so then there's a sense that you need to help them. Now, in this tradition also, and there's so much, this thing is, when I prepare for this class, we need about 10 hours just to get through the foundation stuff, really, and I know that there's students here who spent a lot of time studying, and they know, we do classes on developing equanimity, for example, or developing exchanging self with others, meditating on the kindness of all living beings, all these things, which we're not really going to go into detail with here. So why compassion is mainly because we do feel connection. We are connected with every living being. And so in the developing of compassion, developing bodhicitta, we practice and develop this idea of equalizing ourselves with others. Okay, what that means is that everyone's in the same boat. Okay, I think that I think when we use the example of parents or mothers, the way they relate to their children is very unique. It's not, we won't say only mother's relationship children. We're just saying it's maybe a more blatant example. You don't have to, I'm talking in healthy relationships, right? Healthy relationship with mother and child is, you don't have to teach the mom to be compassionate, do you? You don't have to go to some class. It's organic. It happens. Okay. That's how, so we want to develop that as Mahayana practitioners. And in order to develop compassion, we want to develop that feeling towards everybody. Okay. Is there any reason that we shouldn't? I'm asking this actually, this is a question to you. You don't have to answer, but if you have an answer, is there any reason that we should have that attitude towards some people, but not other people? What do you think?
No, we shouldn't.
Okay. I don't think we should. Why do you think we shouldn't? If I can ask.
But because all people we're all equal. We're basically the same. We all want the same things in life.
Exactly. Do you know it's so fascinating? Here we are. So that's right. And it's like, it's so fascinating to me. Here we are sitting here. Okay, you're sitting there, I'm sitting here. And you are feeling exactly how I feel, right? You feel like you're the only one, like you're in your mind and body, right? And you're having your experiences, right? And I'm having my experiences. And you think I don't mean to put this bluntly, but you think you're the most important person in this room, right? I mean, if you sense someone else is thirsty, you're not gonna, well, you can't because we're in Zoom, but you're not gonna get up and get them a drink of water. You're gonna go get yourself a drink of water, right? So for the bodhisattva, I'm jumping. He or she actually has the sense of your need for a drink of water. And it's equal to her need for a drink of water. That's our goal. That's where we're going. And it's attainable, by the way. So that's considered equanimity, in the sense that we're all equal, as Maureen said. We're all equal, not in our wealth, not in our intelligence, not in our age, not in our skills and capabilities, but we're all equal in our potential. Even insects, okay, even fish. they have a harder time reaching their potential, but they have a potential. They have the potential. But we're equal in that we all want exactly the same thing, and we spend every instant trying to get it. Every instant. Because none of us like to feel pain, suffering, discomfort, do we? Okay. So on that basis, so then as we develop this compassion, and I'm not very good at it, but I mean, I defer to you guys, but sometimes you walk around, like you go in the grocery store and all of a sudden a really weird thing happens. And it's almost like you become that person, not totally, but you're in their skin. You know what I mean? You have that experience? Yeah. When we do that 24/7, we become very nice people. Right? And nice people in this formula, nice people are happier people. Okay. Anything else? MoveOn.org. Yes. Michelle.
We have one question.
Okay.
Susan, go ahead.
Oh.
Hi, Karuna. I see what equanimity, that's absolutely bedrock to develop bodhicitta, compassion. But there are some people that, I mean, we have to adjust our reactions depending, I mean, if some people are extremely violent and divisive and destructive, it doesn't make sense to make ourselves completely vulnerable to them.
No, right. That's okay.
I mean, there has to be a different way of reacting to different
So,
people.
Susan, so, to be kind doesn't have to make you vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And also this is what's beautiful about this is that we're talking on a certain way, but this kindness and compassion has, in a way, it has no limit to it. And this is where it gets very exciting. So kindness, as we advance, so kindness and compassion are balanced with wisdom. I think in other traditions, this is what's missing, and we're going to talk about wisdom in just a few minutes. This is something very unique to Buddhist thought, that compassion without wisdom is like a bird trying to fly with one wing. And I don't think you hear that in other traditions, right? And it's not to say that love and compassion in other traditions is something bad. It's something very, very good and very positive, but it has limits. Okay. And so when I see, well, as some of my friends know, I had a 9-year relationship with Lam Yeshe. I was very fortunate. And from 1975 until he passed away in 1984. And it wasn't fun. It was for the first few months. It was very romantic. It was called the honeymoon stage. But it was really quite brutal. He was very strict. He was very stern with me. Everyone else saw this bubbly, full of love, which he was, and, affection, Lama, engaging, charismatic. But then some of us didn't get too much of that side of him. In 9 years, he gave me one compliment. That's all I can remember. In 9 years, he gave me countless put downs. Now, I have to put that in context. Because his mind was totally imbued with bodhicitta, nothing he said or did ever felt like abuse. Okay. It's the same. The only metaphor or example I can use is a parent who's rough with his child who's about to run in front of a train or something. You're not going to be, oh, please, honey, don't run in front of the traffic. You're going to use you might have to use forceful measures. So we believe that when we develop this this high level of kindness that's balanced with wisdom, you will be using force. You might be using force, I should say. You might be using power. You might not just be using softness and kindness. Lam Yeshu said, in the beginning we do like this, which is like caress. He said in the middle we go like this, bring them closer, and it's in the end we go like this. So, which means the idea in Buddhists becoming enlightened is to crush our ego, right? Well, that's not going to feel good. How could that feel good? So in other paths, or in the Theravada path, for example, it might be very gentle. It may go more gently. It might not also, but it might, depending on the capacity of the person. So with Lam Yeshe, in his case, he wasn't stern and rough with everybody. I don't know why it was with me. I didn't think I could take it, actually. And many times I cried, and many times I wanted to run away. Believe me. Maybe at some point I'll tell one of those runaway stories in a few minutes. Okay. Hope that I didn't over belabor the question. Okay. So in the preliminaries to thought transformation, we're not going to go through these because I know you want to get a little bit deeper in it, but I have to, at least, because I don't know all of the people in the room. So it's important that, remember I said last week that these are intermediate teachings. These are teachings of the Mahayana. Before we're Mahayanas, or which is called, like, there's 3 capabilities of human beings, we say. Actually 4, but anyway, 3 when we're practicing a spiritual path, and this can be any spiritual path, there's 3 levels of intention. Okay, so the first level of intention is you just want to get a higher rebirth. Remember we talked about that last week. The second level of intention is you practice a spiritual path to attain moksha, or liberation. This is the case in Hindu path as well, and we say that's what distinguishes the Hinayana from the Mahayana. We can even say, in terms of the Christian faith, that the Christian faith is their practice is to attain higher rebirth, right? Even though they say they don't believe in rebirth, they do believe in rebirth. I can't quite get why they say they don't, because they say after this life you go to heaven or hell or purgatory, right? Isn't that rebirth? Am I missing something there? So that would be considered the lowest capacity. I mean, then there's beings who are not on any spiritual path, by the way. So we're just talking about spiritual practitioners. So the highest scope, we would say, is the scope of the Mahayana practitioner, who seeks to attain enlightenment, a full release from all the suffering of samsara for the benefit of other living beings. So that practitioner generates bodhicitta. Now, to generate that, to step into that path, all of us in this room, if we want to go on that practice thought transformation, we have to have some appreciation for the precious human form. I'm not going to go into these teachings, by the way. These are teachings in terms of the lower scopes. We have to have some appreciation for death and impermanence. We have to have some appreciation for actions and their results, which is karma. And we have to have some appreciation for the faults of cyclic existence. Okay? Now, if you, I guess, hang on a second. So where are people at with their relationship with cause and effect, karma? Is that new to some people? Is it not new? Was it new to some people? Is there an acceptance? Is there, where are people at? Can you say? Actually, you can just raise your hand. People who have an understanding acceptance of karma. Okay, good. A lot of people. And then people, I don't want to embarrass you, it's not meant to embarrass, then people who don't really get it or have some doubt or doubt it. Are there any of those? Oh. A little bit Susan. I don't believe Susan, but she's saying she does. I believe you, but okay. So in this case, I'll go through this a little bit in a different way. And Susan, I hope I don't lose you. Just you feel free to ask questions when they arise. Okay. Because this text, Wheel of Sharp Weapons. So as I told you, there are many mind training texts. You see, remember I showed you this big thick book last week. So this is all different mind training texts. They're the raw texts, so just translations of them, and they're different approaches to training our minds. So if you look at, now we haven't read any of the verses yet, and we may not. Well, I plan to read a couple of this by the end of this class tonight. But if you look at the text, when you look at it, this text in particular seems pretty focused, at least about half the text, on cause and result. Has anyone looked at the text, some of the verses yet? You did? And did you notice that there's a lot about, because you did this, you experienced that? Right. Okay. So I think because it's such a strong part of the text, karma, such a strong part of that I thought I'd do a review of karma. And let's see. Will people find that, is that okay? I guess I should ask. Hang on a second. Is that okay? Is anyone going to be, karma is not something you study once anyway. Okay, I guess it's going to be okay. I'll try. Let me know if I go too fast or too slow. Okay, let Michael know. Okay. Because usually when we teach on karma, it takes 4, 5, 6 weeks. So I'm going to try and do it in 20 minutes. Is that okay? Okay. Again, let Michael know if something goes awry. Okay. Okay. So oops, I got to move your pictures. Okay. Conditioned by ignorance, there's formative action. This is referred to as a condition of potential. A thing can only arise from a concordant or compatible causes. It must have the potential. You cannot grow grapes from an apple seed. Okay, it's not a concordant or compatible cause. The compulsive contaminated actions that keep us in cyclic existence can only come from causes that possess the potential to produce them. What are those causes? The disturbing actions and emotions. The understanding of reality, emptiness, will never produce such thoughts and actions. Okay? I'll get less technical now. So I like to say this is not 100% true, but it really helps to understand karma when you just think of it as mental energy. So when you're thinking, dreaming, depressed, distracted, jealous, obsessing, going to the supermarket, there's mental energy going on all that time, isn't there? Even if you're not aware of it, there's mental energy going on. That's a good way of understanding karma. Okay? Because in every instant, an instant is considered the snap of a finger. Some texts say, I always get the numbers wrong. I don't, maybe Michael remembers or Jessica or someone. 67 instances, mind moments in the snap of a finger. And then I think it's something like 260 or something. One other text says in the snap of a finger. What that means, in the snap of a finger, we have that many imprints, that many experiences, mental perceptions. And all those mental experiences are energy, right? There's energy being now it's possible that those are all leaving imprints on our consciousness, just like a film. Okay. Now, all these imprints have 4 qualities. Certainty means they will definitely ripen. Okay, when you make, so let's take an easy example. Let's say you're driving out of the supermarket, because this happened to me today. I'm driving out of the supermarket, going across, and I have to cut through traffic and go left out of the parking lot. And some guy's coming from my right, and he wants to come in where I am, but he's like way back. I didn't know he was, and so he wanted to turn, but I was blocking him off, and then he gets all angry and gesticulating, and I'm like, okay, well, I won't say what I said. So so there's the action, right? And those imprints, so there's a lot of mental energy going on, isn't there? So maybe I was angry, maybe I was frustrated, maybe I was compassionate, whatever it is, those are imprints, correct? So those are certain to ripen in the future. Okay? Those imprints can also become magnified. So one small imprint can become magnified. Okay. Like that small imprint of me just like maybe getting angry at him or something, and the next thing I know, we're in a fight, he pulls out a gun and I get shot, right? That's kind of the magnification of an imprint. Now that imprint was created in the past, by the way. Okay. You will never experience a result not created by you. There's no sins of the fathers or visited upon their sons. That's not true. I mean, maybe it means something in a different way, but when we think strictly about karma, your sins do not fall on your children. There is DNA stuff, I get that, but we're not talking about DNA is something physical. We're talking something mental. Okay. And imprints are never, ever lost. Okay. The certainty is, number one, is that positive imprints lead to positive results, happiness. Negative imprints lead to unhappy results, suffering. So we say even the nice cool breeze in the evening on a hot day, that's that feeling of pleasure and happiness, whatever you want to call it, is due to your positive imprint. Okay. So to develop, to have a full mental imprint, though, you need a basis, which is the object of the action, right? So like me, this guy coming in to trying to, cut me off. And then that's the object of, action. Then you have a thought, okay, a state of mind, right? An affliction arises, maybe you're angry or maybe you're happy and compassionate. Then you do the action, like you tell them, yell at them. And then the culmination is you complete that action and you're kind of like, oh, good, that's over with. Okay. So what kind of results are we going to experience? And again, now it comes important because in the text, this is where they're sort of focusing on Dharmakashita. So now the different kind of results, and that one imprint we make, if it's all four of those things, if you got the basis, the thought, the action, and culmination, and by the way, a lot of times it's not there. You're driving down the road and you run over a squirrel. Is it the full action of killing? The full, complete mental imprint? It's not. There's no intention, right? There is the action, there's the culmination, and also the culmination, there's so many details with this. Part of the culmination is you feel good about it. Well, in the case of running over school, most of us don't feel good about it, okay? There is a basis, which is the squirrel and the car and you. There's very little thought. You're just, there's no thought, okay? You're thinking something else, no intention. There is the action. So it's not a full karmic imprint, so is in the case of, you want to do something like you want to have a cigarette, and there's the basis of the object is a cigarette and the thought, I really want a cigarette. State of mind is you're really anxious and nervous. So you really want to calm down. The action is you have a cigarette, and the culmination is you're happy you had your cigarette. Now that's not one good thing about all that. There's no other human being involved, by the way. So, it's not exactly a good example. So all those imprints, everything we do have three results. Some say four, but anyway, so there's a fruitional or ripened effect. There's a causally concordant effect, and there's environmental effects. Okay, I'm going to go fast. So fruitional means the type of life you would be reborn into. So people we don't know karma yet or understand this mental imprint, we don't know why people beings are born as sheep, and other beings are born as Cambodian, and other people born as American, and other beings are born as fruit flies, other beings are born in the hell realms, other beings are born as spirits, other beings are born in the celestial realms. So that's the fruitional, okay? And that depends upon the degree of the affliction that motivated the original cause. So if you torture somebody, that affliction through great hatred would probably, it's going to lead to a lower rebirth, okay, or more bad things. Okay. So then fruitional also determines the kind of life you're going to lead. Okay. This is where conditions are right. Okay. Okay, so it's a type of life you're reborn into. Okay. It's not the experiences you have in that life. That's a different karmic result. Okay. So results corresponding to the causes have similarity to the causes. So let's say you have a habit of cheating people. I mean, you have you cheat people, that's your livelihood. You develop that habit, by the way, and you'll have that habit in your future lives. That's one of the results. And then also you get cheated. So if you have the experience where you come out from your house and your bike is stolen, okay, that's a ripening of a full karmic imprint. Okay, so you maybe this life you don't steal, you got in your head, I'm not going to steal, or it's not right because your parents told you, or maybe you do have the idea, it's okay, just take a little thing like that, and you're going to experience. But at the same time, if you don't develop the habit, which is one karmic result, you also may have the result of the experience that like you stealing a bike, you will have the experience of having a bicycle stolen from you. Okay, I'm going very fast. Okay, now results corresponding to the cause, and this is in the text now. Okay, so these are the 10 non-virtuous actions, and I think it's helpful because when you read the text, you might be reading it on your own. This will give you a context to understand why the heck they're talking about. Dharmakashita is talking about the Lama Tisha. So killing, if you're wondering why people have a short life, okay, this is called results corresponding to the cause. So killing, a short life, a lot of illnesses. There's okay, this is the result corresponding, the one I just talked about. If you stole, the result that you'll experience is living in poverty. And you know how some people, they do all the right things in business and they never make it, right? And they say, and people say, oh, he needs an MBA. That's just garbage. I know a lot of MBA people can't make a dime. I know a lot of people who don't have any education and make good money. Okay, so they're not. And then you also have the stealing. You don't have anything that's your own. You always have to share everything. Okay. In terms of sexual misconduct, I got to move this. Sorry. Sexual misconduct, a very troublesome spouse, an unfaithful spouse, or I'm sorry, I keep getting an unfaithful spouse or a competitor, a rival, right? Someone who threatens you, it's trying to steal your partner or is flirting with your partner. The people you live with, well, it says your servants, but that's the people you live with, those that surround you have a bad character, crude and untrustworthy. Even that's karma. Even that's karma, the people around you. People come clean your house or whatever you want to say, or the people you work with. Okay, so these are weird, aren't they? It's not very intuitive. Okay, then if you're lying, then you'll be the subject of being denigrated, slandered, defamed, blamed, and also you're deceived by others. You can't understand, why am I always cheated? Why do I always fall for those Nigerian, banks or whatever, Nigerian things? Slander, you slander people, those around you are not harmonious. You wondering why you can't be around harmonious people? Why does everyone always fight at work? Why is your family always, arguing? Those around you are not harmonious due to slander. and you're constantly locked in disagreement, argumentative, and people around you are unreliable, dishonest, evil. You're always ripping you off. You hire gardening crew or something, and next thing you know, they've overcharged you. Why does that always happen? Harsh speech, to constantly hear unpleasant words spoken by others. Why is it that people always pick on you? Why is it that people always talk rudely to you? Okay. Always being attacked and criticized. When they try to speak nicely, their words sound argumentative and unpleasant, and no one wants to listen to them. Gossip or senseless speech, your words are not considered trustworthy. You ever have that? People tell me, I said the exact same thing, but no one listened to me. Have you heard that? You lack self-confidence and you are uncertain in your thoughts and deeds. Okay, so insecurity, lack of confidence. Then the three mental ones: coveting other people's stuff. You're naturally greedy, possessed by strong attachment. You never really feel satisfied no matter how much wealth you have. Malice is you seek what is not beneficial and do not seek what is beneficial. Oh, you seek what is not beneficial. You engage constantly in senseless concerns that are useless or harmful. You habitually harm others or others harm you. And then wrong view, you just naturally adhere to wrong views. Now, wrong view is an interesting one. You're constantly deceitful to others. I'm not going to go into detail, but sometimes you wonder, I wonder. The political views being expressed these days blow my mind. Okay, I won't say which ones, but it's certainly, and you can't talk people out of it. Have you ever noticed that? Or again, I don't want to get in trouble, but like certain people knock on your door and have a particular religious persuasion and they try to convert you, right? I'm not saying what they're doing is negative, because you can't say negative, but I'm just saying, and you can't have a rational conversation, can you? Whether it's political, religious, whatever. Okay, that can be, I'm not saying it is, it can be possessed by wrong view. Okay. Okay, now environmental result. Is this helpful? Is this helpful or is this too much detail? Okay, I'm going really fast. Again, if you want me to stop, just let Michael know. Okay. Environment. Now, that's one kind of result from karmic, those imprints, right? You purposely, any one of those 10 things you did. Okay. Now, there's also environmental results. This is also very important because in the text, it talks about the environmental results we experience. So this has to do, with external surrounding environment and your possessions. Okay. So for killing, this gets so fascinating. We wonder, why is food, drink, and medicine that should normally sustain one's life prove weak and ineffective? Okay, this is an environmental result from killing. Medicine has no power to cure, food, no nourishment. It's difficult to digest. Most die before their projected lifespan is exhausted, short lifespan. Most of those around you die premature deaths. Around you, most of those. So it's not only you, this is the environment you create. Okay? The other thing about killing, I know, maybe it says somewhere else here, that you also tend to be living in a very dangerous environment. Okay, unsafe environment. Stealing. Ever wonder why your food and crops are meager? Well, none of us are probably farmers, but yield is small and fruit is blemished. It rots quickly, and the meat of the fruit will be missing. Yeah, that reminds me of going to some supermarkets. And anyway, the area you live in will be plagued by drought or excessive rain. Anyone living in California these days? Sexual misconduct. The environment is born in unclean places with a lot of shit and urine, littered with filth, mud, and slime, and stinks like a sewer. Interesting. Lying. Whatever your career or work, it turns out badly. Disharmony with the people around you and coworkers. People will cheat and deceive you. You find yourself in dangerous and frightening situations. Slander. A place is unpleasant and difficult to move around in. The ground is bumpy and uneven. Painful to walk around in or plant fields. Isn't this interesting? We think that that's not karma. We just say, oh, I got a bad piece of land. But from the point of view of wisdom now, this is important, that when we have insight into emptiness, into reality, I mean, this is very, very, very important. When we have insight into reality, which is what we're working towards right now, I'm trying to get to that in this presentation, then you begin to see things differently. So the meditator, the yogi, yogini, the practitioner who has developing insight into reality begins to see things this way. Okay, this becomes a truth. It's not meant to be just fantasy or conception. It sounds like it. I understand. It's no reason for anybody to accept this, but it is what dawns on the mind, the perception, when we begin to see reality. That we begin to see cause and effect. Okay, the land is difficult to cross because cut up into sections by rivers, roads, and cliffs. This reminds me when I used to hike through the Himalayas in Nepal, huge valleys. It take you half a day to go down the valley, the other half a day to go back up. And there'd be village on this side and a village on that side. And I remember, because I was a new Buddhist in those days, I thought, wow, is that from slander, right? There are extremes and altitudes. There's a need to constantly ascend and descend. Well, there you go. The land contains many dangers and reasons to feel fearful. Slander, sowing disharmony, so born into a disagreeable environment. And by the way, it's of course something interesting, because when you go through Nepal and these areas, on one side, you might have a Tamang, which is one tribe. You might have a Tamang village. But way down here on the other side, you might have a Gurung village. And you go to the Gurung village, I said, don't go over that, watch it when you go through that Tamang village, because they're not honest, you know, and they're going to try and take advantage of you. And you kind of go down, you go up in the Tamang and Tamang village, oh, were you okay going through that Gurung village? Because they're very bad people and they try to steal from you. And I thought, wow, they're really slandering each other, right? I mean, you know, maybe it's my fantasy mind, but it seems some sort of connection. Harsh speech, splintered logs, piercing thorns, sharp stones and gravel, splinters of brick and so on. Everything's like a dump. Everything is broken, useless, and thrown away. No streams, waterfalls, lakes, or ponds. Turn that around and think about when you the beautiful walks you have through the wilderness areas around here, and we're in Santa Cruz. So that shows you create the opposite of harsh speech. That comes from, you know, speaking kindly to others and with awareness. Land is salty and barren, dry, rough, drab, and dusty, without the verdant colors of healthy vegetation, full of danger. Think about the desert, right? Full of dangerous creatures. I was just in Nepal. I was just in Australia for a month. Everyone always talks about the dangerous creatures in Australia and many fearful things. They have all these weird animals there. But you know, the funny thing is, I never run into them. I should knock on wood. You know, they have these terrible spiders and these terrible snakes, and the ocean have these stingers, right? Michael spends time in New Zealand. Is New Zealand like that? No, see, different karma. Harsh speech is like stabbing your victims, so the environments equal that. Gossip, useless talk. Fruit trees do not bear fruit or at the wrong time. Unripe fruit appears ripe. Roots are usually unsturdy and trees do not last long. There's no beauty like parks, temple groves, woodlands, lakes, or ponds. Unpleasant, impure, barren, and full of fear. Think of the inner city. Okay, now there's just with the mental environment, covetousness, wanting what you do not have and wanting more of it. Wanting what you do not have. Wait, wanting what you do not have. Wanting what you do not have. Anyway. Oh, not wanting. This is one of these, not wanting what you do have. Like, you know, getting pasta when you ordered, I don't know, fish. And you're never satisfied. Complaints. People who complain a lot are not satisfied. The place is opposite of what you wanted. All excellent and desirable things will degenerate or decrease every year, each season, every month, every day, and they will never increase or improve. Malice, the wish to harm others. Environment, like even malice, wish to, you know, sometimes I've wanted to harm certain political figures. I mean, I didn't want to harm them, but I wanted them to be harmed, certain political figures. Okay, that's not good. So the environmental result is the place suffers from epidemics and infectious disease. COVID. That's interesting. COVID came right in, and when certain political people got in power, didn't they? And we were all talking, maybe a lot of us were talking about wanting that person or those people to be harmed. Never thought of that. There are many people or animals that may harm you. Social strife and war. Oh my gosh. Okay. Lions, tigers, poison snakes, scorpions, poison spiders, Australia. Spirit harm, thieves, and harmful people. And last, wrong views. All resources in the world would deteriorate and disappear. Now, it's considered that right now in the world, we are in what's called a degenerate time, because the wrong views are becoming more and more prevalent. They're becoming more and more expansive. So things like the nihilistic view that does not believe in karma, these are some of the wrong views, holds that virtuous and non-virtuous actions do not ripen into happy and suffering effects. Like, it doesn't matter if I go and shoot up the supermarket. Okay, it's what I want to do. Doesn't have any harmful effects necessarily. That denies the existence of previous and future lives. I know this is getting pretty religious, I understand. There's no enlightened beings, liberation, a path. These are all the desired based upon a reasoning that is flawed. All resources in the world will deteriorate and disappear. Impure things will appear as pure, like guns, right? A lot of people see guns differently than I do. I don't know if the word pure is quite right, but see them as helpful. Those things in a suffering nature appear to be pleasant. Heroin, drugs, prescription drugs. Those things in a suffering nature will appear to be pleasant. All kinds of things. You cannot find safe haven. There's lower rebirth, no refuge, no guides to freedom. Since wrong view holds that all these things, future lives, teachings, etc., do not exist, they will therefore be lacking in your world. Therefore, the path to liberation disappears. Okay. Okay, what time is it? Jeez, Louise. What time is it, Michael?
You have time, 7:38. Hey, we have one question. Do you want to take
7:38
it or-
already?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't give people a break.
No.
People need a break. There's a yes, there's a no. How about 3 minutes? I'm going to turn off my camera for 3 minutes.
I didn't have a question when you come back.
Okay. Okay, it's a question.
So we do have a question. I hope I get this right. Can we clear up non-virtuous intention and bad karma?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. So that's the 50% of the spiritual path. That's why we do spiritual practice. Okay, that's the whole idea, is to clean up and rid ourselves of the negative imprints. When the negative imprints are completely gone, then that's liberation. Okay, when the effects in our mind, it's kind of like the odor that remains after all the imprints are pure, negative imprints are purified. When those are gone, then that's enlightenment. Okay, in a simplistic way. So our job, so I said 50% is we're pure. We have to purify those imprints, or else this has been going on since the beginning of this time, and we haven't done it. So what the other 50% is creating an immense amount of positive imprints. Okay. Now, because the law, this karma is a law. Enlightenment doesn't just come from nothing. Bodhicitta doesn't come from nothing. It comes from causes. Everything is cause and result, including enlightenment. If you don't create, remember way back in the 45 minutes ago, if you don't create the cause, you don't experience the result. If you do experience the result, you did create the cause. But if you don't create the cause, you won't experience the result. So Me too, by the way. And when I say you, it means all of us. You know, so if you want happiness, create the cause. Because causes definitely ripen into results. If you don't want to be poor, create the cause for wealth. Stop creating the cause for poverty. That's the spiritual path. Seize the negative, enhance the positive. Now, of course, it gets more detailed than that, but that is really, I mean, it really is broken down to that. Then what happens is, well, which positive imprints do I create that are going to create which positive results, right? So there's some Buddhist, I guess they're Buddhists, I'm not exactly sure. They say they're Buddhist traditions whose results they want are wealth, good houses, nice cars, good careers. Technically speaking, that's not a Buddhist path, but maybe it is. So they focus on generating those imprints that are going to produce those results. And then they focus on reducing the imprints of poverty and lack of resources and that sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. What did I forget? Anything?
Just that question from before, just
Yeah.
some examples of self-cherishing. You want to hold off on that? You're
Ah.
going to get to that later?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Let's see if we can get to it.
Okay.
I know probably won't. So then I'll have to give some off the top of my head. Okay. So there's different approaches to developing mind training or thought transformation. There's different traditions. And the one that I like, or one of the ones I think is actually, is to talk about, hang on a second, now we're going to go into a whole different thing. So the purpose of training the Lojong or mind thought transformation is to develop the awakening mind of bodhicitta. So the awakening mind of bodhicitta has two kind of components. There's the ultimate awakening mind, okay? And there's the relative awakening mind. Now, the relative awakening mind is that mind that we've pretty much been talking about or alluding to, which is the mind of compassion for the wish of benefiting sentient beings. But there's an argument made by, well, in one particular text takes the approach, well, no, first talk about the ultimate awakening mind. And I think I'm going to do that because I think it gives context for what it means about self-cherishing, for example. So this is a topic that goes on for years, if I may say. This is about talking about the nature of reality, okay, nature of reality. And the nature of this topic of nature of reality, or the emptiness of inherent existence, is the core topic of Buddhism, period. And the reason it's the core topic of Buddhism is because it's the core practice that is the direct release from samsara. It's the direct antidote that creates the enlightened mind. Okay? So it's the big guy. Now, we have relative bodhicitta, a relative awakening mind, and ultimate awakening mind. Let's talk about the ultimate. So this is the most complex and deep, well, I shouldn't say most, but it is probably considered the most deepest topic in Buddhism, and complex in some ways. I don't want to scare you, but so in this sense, we talk about the opposite of the enlightened mind is ignorance. Okay, and this ignorance that we're talking about, so we all have this ignorance. Okay, trying to fix something here. Sorry. So this ignorance, it compels us to see things as unchanging when they are not. They are changing. It compels us. I'm going to go fast, by the way, and just because I want to get the content to you. Maybe most of you have heard this. It compels us to see things as inherently existent when they are merely described. It compels us to see the world as satisfying when it's dissatisfying. Okay. Ignorance. Okay. Now, when we talk about ignorance, like we say, I'm ignorant of Russian. So that means I don't know Russian. Okay, this ignorance is not just I don't know. So this ignorance is I don't know reality. That's what this ignorance is concerned with. But it's not just not knowing reality. This ignorance is really bad because it projects another reality. So not just not know something, it makes a new one for you and for me. Okay, so it's not just non-knowledge, it conceives the opposite of correct knowledge. So what is the way that the cup in front of you, your computer, the way it exists is we don't see the reality of the computer, don't see the reality of each other's faces here. Okay, we're not seeing the reality of how these faces really exist. We're not seeing the way the computer really exists. You're not seeing the way your room really exists around you. And you're projecting another existence on top of that. So it's not even we don't know, we project a one that's even on top of it. Okay. Now, part of that is external, and then we have the internal, our own ego, our own sense of self. So we see ourself. This is called ego grasping. I am this. Okay. Right now, all of us are saying, I am this. You're not maybe saying it verbally, but you have, when I say you, I mean me too. But you're sitting there saying, I am listening to the teaching. And there's a sense of I. And that sense of I is firmly 100% believed to be true. And it's firmly 100% false. That's pretty profound. Okay. I'm a woman. I'm a man. Okay. I'm a therapist. I'm a teacher. Okay. I'm a dad. I'm a mom. I'm a son. I'm a daughter. You know, whatever you are, that you would say up to now or till recently, that, yeah, I know I'm that. So that is completely false. The way you think you are that is completely false. Does it mean that you don't have a mother and you're not a daughter? It doesn't mean that. It means the way you conceive yourself as a daughter, the way you conceive yourself as a father, the way you conceive yourself as whatever job you are is wrong. You believe it's fixed. Now that fixed I am that. That's what we mean by inherently existing. It truly exists. Okay. But in fact, it's nominally existent. It's designated. Okay, I'll go on because we'll get to that. Okay. And everything is controlled by your I too, right? Yeah, everything is controlled by your own. Just look at the time. Okay. So we see things. This is very important. This is what I want to get to. First of all, permanently. What that means is when you just look in front of you around your room and stuff. When you look around at anything, visual, also auditory, also smell, also taste, also tactile. Did I leave one out? Also sound, did I say that? Any of the 5 sense objects, they all
I think we lost him. Just a minute.
I say I don't think I should talk about emptiness, huh?
We're
My
talking.
internet.
So whose karma is it, Karuna? Is it our karma or your karma?
All of us, yeah, all of us, yeah. Group karma. We have 3 minutes. I lost 3 or 4 minutes. Do you want me to go for a few minutes over, or do you want to talk? Anybody want to chat, or should I just maybe I'll go for a few minutes because I don't want to leave it hanging. Okay. So this is, yeah, so I was saying to look around, and when you go through your day, this week and whatnot, look around and get a sense that you see everything as being fixed when it's not. Okay. Nothing is, I shouldn't say nothing. There are some things that are permanent. Now, permanent here means, well, impermanence, the definition of impermanence, well, not definite, the actual understanding of it is, the definition of impermanence actually is that which is produced. But to be more kind of an easier way to understand, is that which changes moment to moment. Okay. If our house is going to collapse someday, it means it's changing moment to moment now. And then over years, it's like it becomes, why does it look old? Why does the thing change? So it's because from the moment we buy it, the moment it's produced, it's decaying. So that means permanent. Now, my sense of self, Karuna, and if I say, hi, I say hi to Michael. I see Michael, and Michael, when I say hi to Michael, he sees himself as permanent, not changing moment to moment, but he is changing moment to moment, and I'm changing moment to moment, right? Now, also we see things as existing independently. So when you look around you, look at right now, ignorance is getting us to see that things are independent of us. They exist in their own right. That is also not true. Things exist dependently, but we don't see that. So when we begin to see the nature of reality, we begin to see the change in objects, naturally see it, not contrived. It's actually in your visual experience, your arena. We also begin to see things exist, the way they exist independently begins to fall apart, because everything exists dependently, but we don't see anything existing dependently. The nature of everything it exists dependently, and we don't see anything existing dependently. Okay? We experience the sound of my voice as a voice out there, over there, independent of me. That's impossible, by the way. There's no way that my voice can be independent of you and you could hear it. If it was independent, you couldn't hear it. Right? If your bed was permanent, if you look at your bed and it looks permanently like that, you couldn't climb inside of it and go to sleep. Your car appears permanently fixed, unchanging. If it were, you wouldn't be able to drive it down the road. It wouldn't start. This is what ignorance does. This is a crash course, very fast, on the biggest topic in the world. So as Geshe Gelek says, one of my teachers, we see what isn't there and don't see what is there. Okay, that's a sidewalk drawing, by the way. There's no 3 dimensions there. Okay, so the way things exist is they're empty of existing the way they appear, empty of any true existence. Now, did I say existence of any kind? I'm not saying that they're non-existent. That's an extreme, but they're empty of a true existence the way we see them. They're empty of any inherent existence. You cannot find the cup. When you analyze the cup, you can't find it. And they're independent, empty of being existing independently. Okay, what's our time like now? We must be over. Okay, let me just see for a second here. Okay, so this is where we get to self-cherishing. So we need to make the distinction between, there is a conventional self. Otherwise, who attains enlightenment? Someone there, there's someone there experiencing this class and the sounds and your pain that you go through. There's experience, right? So we can't say there's no one existing. Okay, but the way we think we exist is a false self. We need to learn to differentiate between the conventional self, which does exist because it functions, and the false self, which we think we are, and it does not function. Okay. Okay, I think I better stop there. Now, just quickly, and this is really the topic of the class, well, where it's focused on, is someone asked about self-cherishing. What was the question, Michael? An example of self-cherishing? Is that right? Yeah. So let me just give the Reader's Digest version for self-cherishing, and because it's the whole point of this class. So when ignorance is well, it's always functioning. So what ignorance does is it says, I am this. Okay, I'm a dad. I'm a student. I'm a partner. All these I, even like I'm eating. Okay. So when we're eating and when we're drinking, when we're listening, there's a sense of I, right? I mean, you say, I'm sitting here, right? Everyone has this idea, I'm here. I'm sitting here. What else could it be? So that sense of I is what we refer to as I grasping. It's I grasping. We grasp a sense of self, right? Because we grasp a sense of self, which isn't there. So it's a whole hallucination. And then as a result of that, what rises is we got to make this self happy. Okay. And we have a belief system based upon all these different mental states and mental factors that says this will make me happy. Now, the self-cherishing comes in when we put our own happiness at the expense of everybody else. And by the way, we do that all the time. Okay. It's not the same. I will say that every instant we have I grasping. Every instant we do not necessarily have self-cherishing. Okay. But if we start looking at those 10 non-virtues of slander, sexual misconduct, gossiping, harsh speech, killing, talking about people poorly, wanting the last piece of cheesecake, all that's self-cherishing, wanting yourself to be happy, and focusing and focusing and focusing and focusing and focusing. I got to get this, I got to get that. I have to promote my career. Let's see if I can get, something better for me. It's endless. We're all in it. The reduction of self-cherishing is the cherishing of others. When someone has true love and compassion and generosity, they go up to the buffet or whatever, or open the fridge door, and there's that one last strawberry there, and they know that the person in the other room really would want it, but doesn't know there's only one. So do you sneak that strawberry and just be quiet that there was only one left and eat it? Or do you really think, I know that she would really love that. I know she'd really enjoy it. And that sense, okay, now the reason this is important for this text, and for mind training, is that we develop the awareness that it's endless. This self-cherishing mind is endless. We've been doing it for countless lifetimes. It never stops, and it's never satisfied. And it's based upon a false view. That's really what cuts through it. It's based upon a false view. Okay. So examples of self-cherishing are endless. But it's where you are more important than others. That's fundamental. You can feel it driving, or I do, I should say. I can feel it driving all the time. Somebody slow on the freeway, and how you got this really congested freeway, and then the person in front of you has like this 8-car gap between them and the next car. And I don't know about you, I'm a very bad person, especially when I drive. And I'm thinking, just hurry up. Why are you get all this thing, right? You guys might not do this. It might just be my own problem. But, why don't you speed up? You're letting all these other cars in. You're slowing things down. And what are you texting? Are you on your phone? Right? That's self-cherishing. I want to be there. I don't want this. But if I was practicing, then remember I talked about earlier, exchanging myself with others, I would go into her car in my head and I would see what her reality is. And it would make total sense to me why she was 8 cars behind or 8 car gap. And the heart softens, doesn't it? Okay. So I'm
But
sorry.
would you be just making that up in your own mind? I mean, like, you're telling yourself a story.
Totally.
Right,
It's all made up. It's all made up.
Okay.
Even people say, yeah, she was on her phone and she is selfish. It's still made up.
So I mean, so how do you even begin to eliminate self-cherishing? Because it's all over. It's everything you do. So the idea that you realize that it's self-cherishing and you don't blow your horn, you don't do certain things. So you're taking an action to start to let go of yourself because you really want to blow on the horn. So how do you begin to eliminate the intensity of self-cherishing?
Okay, so it's not okay. So this is complicated because more and more it's what you do is secondary, like blow the horn or yell out your window or put masking tape over your mouth or whatever. That's not actually the antidote. The antidote is when we were talking about it a few minutes ago in terms of wisdom. That's the actual antidote. You begin to see, oh, I'm totally been taken over by this trick of a mind that doesn't even exist. And that takes years and years. That's what practice, that's the spiritual path. Now, maybe you completely get to the point where you're totally habituated to it, where it never rises anymore. That will happen. Does that happen in a year or a lifetime or an eon? I don't know. It's individual. But you switch the habit, right? You switch the habit. And it doesn't come like overnight. If it comes overnight, don't trust it. It's probably not authentic. It's better to go slow. It's much better to go slow. Otherwise, it's just more like what we're fascinated by the next shiny thing, right? Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you really think those things still?
Yeah, of course I do. Which things?
Like when a driver cuts you off?
What?
When a driver cuts you off?
Oh, yeah. But I think what's different, Denise, is I was at this, I'm confessing to all of you, okay? So I should be careful. I was at a golf tournament for a few days down in Palm Springs. And there was this guy there who's a Buddhist. Yeah, a long time. And the tournament was over and everyone's heading, not everybody, we're heading to the airport. And I'm in the back of the car with a couple of friends and we're driving along. And there's this car next to us who's tailgating the car ahead of him. Totally tailgating. The guy ahead of that he's tailgating is going a little slow in the fast lane, but what the heck? Tailgating. And finally he starts honking at the guy. And then my friends say, "Oh, isn't that so-and-so, the Buddhist?" So it's a good teaching. So I think we just get better and better. That's all. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I think the guy today that cut me off, I was reactive much shorter than I would have been a year ago, 10 years ago. It was just for a moment, And then also when I'm not trying to brag, this is for your benefit. When I realized I got kind of irritated and angry with them, then I thought about some purification practice. And I did that. And then you leave it, then done. Don't dwell on it. I did my best. I screwed up, but that's the nature of we're going to screw up all the time. It's not screwing up that's the problem. It's not trying to improve that's the problem. Okay? Not learning. Okay, don't be hard on yourselves. I'll try not to be also. It's not, we have to, the more we get involved in the practice, the more you see our minds are a mess. So if you can't handle that, you got to be able to handle it without dumping on yourself. And what you do is say, oh, those are the afflictions. That's what we've been studying. That's the ignorant mind. That's the unenlightened mind. That's the self-cherishing mind. That's all the stuff. So good, great. I see it. Fantastic. I would never know. But then you move on. If you can do some sort of generate compassion to that guy or whatever you can do, then you do it. And you start changing the habits. Okay, so good night.
Do
Anything
you want
else?
to do some dedication prayers real quick or?
Yeah. So I'll just do them for you if you just reflect on this. So because everything is generated in an imprint, all imprints will ripen. Positive imprints ripen as happiness, negative imprints ripen as pain and discomfort and suffering. It's just simple, it's an equation. It's not blame, it's not God. So now everything we did tonight, we can ascribe the intention, which at the end of the action is called dedication. And we dedicate it, it's just like intention. We dedicate all these countless imprints that they'll ripen into more wisdom, that I'll be able to understand my own mind. The mind is what leads us to enlightenment, our mind. I dedicate all these virtuous thoughts, this activity, this action, even the confusion, to the full awakening. It ripens as my full awakened mind. And that full awakened mind, as it attains it, will work constantly, continuously, forever, till all beings are liberated. And then there's one prayer that I really love. I change it around sometimes, and that is by Shantideva. For as long as space endures, and for as long as sentient beings remain, so too may I abide to relieve the suffering of the world. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, Karuna, one last question very quickly.
Sure.
So it seems like there is a lot of content. Do you think you'd be interested in teaching more classes on the topic than just the 4 that you're thinking about?
It's certainly, yeah, certainly. I think what I would do around that is talk to Michael, and because it's talk to Michael. If there's people who would like more, then we can set up additional, but go through Michael, not through me. It'd be better. And then it may not happen, in the next week, right after this. It may be a break, because I am actually teaching another class, not with Land of Medicine Buddha, but with another center for 3 weeks right after this, which you're free to attend, by the way. So let's do it that way for now. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you. Actually, it's easier for me because you can see I'm rushing, aren't I? I'm like losing my breath. I'm gonna have a heart attack or something.